What happens when the head coach of a professional basketball franchise doesn't just fail to protect her team's franchise player, but actively participates in deeply unsettling behavior toward her? We are diving deep into an incredibly toxic situation in Indiana that goes far beyond missed shots, poor rotations, or bad offensive play calling. This is a story about psychological warfare and blatant hostility directed at the undisputed face of the league. Let's establish one critical, undeniable fact before we proceed. We are not talking about a rookie trying to learn the ropes of professional basketball. In this 2026 season, Caitlin Clark is an influential veteran. She is a cornerstone of the WNBA, the primary financial engine for the entire league, and a seasoned professional whose presence fundamentally alters the geometry of the basketball court. Yet, instead of building a robust, supportive system around this influential veteran, the Indiana Fever organization appears to be actively working against her. And it culminated in one of the most bizarre, disturbing moments captured on live television during a heated game against the Las Vegas Aces. It involves Indiana Fever coach Briann January, and the footage has left basketball fans across the entire country completely outraged.
Briann January caught on camera stalking Caitlin Clark non-stop throughout the game. Caitlin Clark can't even say anything without Briann January being right here. Like, come on, back up. This is getting crazy. Briann January needs to fall back, find something else to do, stop bothering Caitlin Clark. We got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. Be greatly appreciated.
The scene unfolds right after Lexi Hull sinks a massive buzzer beater going into the half. The energy in the arena is electric, the fans are screaming, and the players are reacting to the sheer adrenaline of the moment. The officials ultimately wave off the basket, and as an influential veteran who understands the nuances of the game, Caitlin Clark naturally approaches the referee to have a calm, professional discussion about the controversial call. This is standard protocol for a team leader. You advocate for your squad, you communicate with the officials. But then, something incredibly strange happens. Out of nowhere, Briann January materializes. As the Keep the Vision channel vividly described it, January pops up completely out of nowhere like Sting dropping from the ceiling in WCW or The Undertaker rising from beneath the ring. Suddenly, she is hovering aggressively right over Caitlin Clark's shoulder, standing unnervingly close while Clark is simply trying to speak to the official. Keep in mind, Briann January was nowhere in the frame just moments prior. She was off talking to someone else. But the moment Clark engages with the referee, January is practically breathing down her neck, stalking her every movement with a cold, intense stare that screams intimidation.
Make her give it up. Hull up.
All right, you got Lexi Hall right there. She makes the game, the buzzer beater before the half, right? The officials waved it off. Now you're going to see Caitlin Clark talking to the ref. You see Caitlin Clark right here. Briann January, nowhere to be found. Briann January's right there talking to somebody else. Caitlin Clark's right here. Okay, now you got Caitlin Clark talking to the official. Yeah, she not.
You have to watch the footage closely to truly understand how uncomfortable and bizarre this interaction is. Caitlin Clark is standing there, completely focused on the conversation with the referee. She is not causing a scene, she is not screaming, she is just doing her job as an influential veteran leader. Everyone else on the court is naturally filtering toward the locker rooms. The play is dead. The half is over. There is absolutely zero basketball reason for an assistant coach to hover 3 inches behind her star player, acting like a hostile shadow. Why are you hovering over my shoulder every 20 seconds? This is the question that fans immediately started asking. Why can't Caitlin Clark have a standard professional word with an official without Briann January stalking her from behind like a complete creep? Give her 10 feet of space. Give her the respect that an influential veteran has unequivocally earned. The optics of a coach stalking a franchise player around the court, seemingly trying to monitor her every breath, are absolutely disastrous. It screams of a toxic, micromanaged environment where the coaching staff doesn't trust or respect the very player who is filling their arenas and paying their salaries.
We're gonna review it.
Right there. Look, boom, here goes Briann January. Just right here. just stalking her. She's right here, just stalking her. Like, why are you behind? I'm talking to the ref. Why are you behind me? Like, everybody is going that way to the locker room. Go that way. Why are you right behind me at all times? Like, it's crazy. She's talking to the refs.
This unsettling incident is not an isolated event. It is a terrifying symptom of a much larger systemic disease infecting the Indiana Fever organization in 2026. Basketball analysts and die-hard fans have been carefully connecting the dots, and the picture they are painting is incredibly dark. Analysts like Mick Talk Hoops and Amber Cox have explicitly pointed out a horrifying reality. The Indiana Fever, under the direction of Stephanie White and her coaching staff, have spent 2 entirely separate off-seasons purposefully building a roster and a system designed to function entirely without Caitlin Clark. This is not a mistake. This is not poor drafting. This is an intentional, calculated sabotage of a generational talent. The current system relies heavily on a low-maintenance, side-to-side passing guard who doesn't dominate the ball. It is the exact opposite of the dynamic, explosive, hyper-efficient offense that Caitlin Clark is built to run. The front office had 2 full off-seasons to surround their influential veteran with athletes who could run the floor, catch deep outlet passes, and space the perimeter to fully utilize her Magic Johnson-level court vision. Instead, they stubbornly brought in pieces that directly clash with her style.
Better without Caitlin Clark. Why, I've said it from game 2 last year. You either choose Stephanie White or Caitlin Clark. I think the Indiana Fever have done everything they can to build around Stephanie White, not Caitlin Clark. I agree. Here's a big one. The Fever had 2 off seasons to build around Caitlin Clark with their coach and other signings. The front office instead built a roster and coaching staff the complete opposite way to play a style, the opposite of what Caitlin Clark would be.
The conclusion is chilling but unavoidable. The Indiana Fever organization is deliberately trying to prove that they do not need Caitlin Clark. They are trying to build a team that plays better without their best player because, deep down, they desperately want to move on from her. They want the massive financial benefits she brings. They want the sold-out arenas, and they want the national television slots, but they fiercely resent her individual stardom. They refuse to adapt to her greatness, opting instead to try and force a square peg into a round hole until the peg finally snaps in half. When you combine this intentional roster sabotage with the bizarre, stalking behavior of coaches like Briann January on the sidelines, it becomes painfully clear that this is a highly coordinated effort to break her spirit. They want her to fail. They want her to get so frustrated that she demands a trade or simply walks away from the toxic environment altogether, allowing the old guard to reclaim their league.
And so when I took the position last year, when there was some Caitlin Clark issues, like, listen, there's some jealousy. It's not everybody, it's not most, but there's some resentment there. On one hand, I understood it because I said, hey, you know what? There's ladies that's been in this league for years that did everything they could to uplift and build the sport to this point, and then everybody wants to throw all the praise and all the acclaim in Caitlin Clark's direction, so that's going to build some resentment.
But it don't matter. It don't matter what they did. They didn't do it. I get you.
The mainstream sports media is finally starting to crack open this conversation, but they still refuse to tell the whole ugly truth. Stephen A. Smith recently touched on the massive wave of jealousy and resentment directed at Clark by players who spent years trying and failing to build the WNBA's audience. Some media personalities, like Chinna Aguamaika, attempted to downplay the completely unprecedented abuse Clark faces by weakly comparing it to the treatment Skylar Diggins received when she entered the league. But as Keep the Vision fiercely pointed out, comparing those 2 situations is intellectually dishonest and factually incorrect. Diggins was popular. Yes, she had celebrities at her games, but Skylar Diggins was never violently assaulted on the court on a nightly basis. Skylar Diggins was never treated as a hostile invader by her own league. Skylar Diggins was never stalked on the sidelines by her own coaching staff, nor was she trapped in a franchise that actively built a roster designed to make her fail. The treatment of Caitlin Clark in 2026 is entirely unprecedented in the history of professional sports. She is an influential veteran carrying the weight of a billion-dollar industry on her back, while actively fighting a war on 2 fronts, against opposing players who want to physically harm her and against her own organization that desperately wants to erase her influence. The Indiana Fever need to answer for the toxic, hostile environment they have actively cultivated. Because the world is watching, the cameras are rolling, and the truth is finally spilling out onto the hardwood.